Today is the 9th of January and it marks the 5th anniversary of becoming a paraplegic. 5 years ago today, I snowboarded off a cliff and broke my back, giving myself a spinal cord injury and rendering myself paralyzed from the waist down. And I wanted to reflect on this special date because it's kind of like a bit of a tradition. I do this every year. Like, what have I learned on my 5th year of being a paraplegic? Quite a lot, actually. So I wanted to share a few of the key moments of my life, and I really do feel that there's been two chapters of my life, before the accident and after the accident. I really do feel there's a clear distinction of life before being a paraplegic and life with a disability, life with a spinal cord injury. So I wanted to share a few things about what I've learned, some of the highlights, some of the lowlights. So while there's definitely been some challenges and lowlights, it's been an overwhelmingly positive year for me. Some of the things that I've achieved, I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams staring down at my paralyzed limbs 5 years ago in the hospital bed. I genuinely thought my life was over, and I thought that basically my happiness depended a lot on external things. Like, I've always been on this hedonistic treadmill of like snowboarding and mountain biking and seeking the next thrill. I was definitely a bit of an adrenaline junkie. And since my accident, I've discovered that happiness can be found in many different places, and I've certainly lived my life, I guess, in a little bit more of an altruistic way. I certainly like to I think kindness and gratitude have played a lot in my happiness from day to day. But I wanted to reflect more acutely on the things that have happened like this year. One of the most amazing things that have happened this year has been finding love, finding a beautiful relationship with a wonderful girl called Christina. I started the year, in full disclosure, in a different relationship. I was in a relationship with a girl, and it ended, and it blindsided me, and I was completely heartbroken, and I didn't expect it to happen. And I found myself being stronger and more resilient than I thought I was going to be. Or course, when you get your heart broken, it hurts. And in full disclosure, I've shared on this YouTube channel, I'm quite insecure about being in a wheelchair, or at least I was. I didn't think I thought it was unlikely that someone would see past the wheelchair and want to be with me, because I guess maybe I wouldn't have, before my accident, considered dating someone in a wheelchair myself, and so anyway, I found a beautiful girl. We've been together for 9 months now, and I can't tell you how wonderful it is and how special it feels to be so compatible with someone, so in tune with someone. I feel like I'm, dating my best friend. We are incredibly in love, and, if I had to pick one highlight of the year, that would be hands down the most important thing for me. It's been absolutely incredible to be in a relationship so special. One of the proudest moments for me of 2023 was that I took my car, I drove all the way down to Geneva, I got on a plane on my own, I flew all the way from Geneva to Bristol, and then from Bristol down to Southampton using public transport only, and I got all the way to the hotel on my own, which was absolutely fantastic. It was one of the things that it blew my mind how much it was kind of odd, because I go back to when I was in rehab, and I remember like looking down at my paralyzed limbs and thinking my life is over, and 5 years down the line, I can, travel independently on an aeroplane to a different country. Obviously a country that I grew up in, where I speak the language natively, but it was still, and use public transport. I got in a taxi where it was like a kind of a minibus, and I said to the driver, "No, just give me a hand up." He's like, "No, I get special taxi for you." I was like, "I don't need a special taxi. Just, go on, my son." And we got up in the front seat, and it was great. And then I went, from the airport to the train station, to the train station, to the bus station, to the bus station, to the hotel. It was a really brilliant accomplishment for me. Funnily enough, when I got to the hotel, I couldn't get into my room because it was kind of a funny story. I won't go into it now, but there was this gatekeeper who was just like, "No." And I was like, "Come on, man, I've come all the way. This morning I woke up in Morzine in France, and now I just need to get to my hotel room." It's a story for another time, but it was one of my proudest achievements was that, for sure. And talking of traveling, some of the other really cool things that I've done this year is I went to Bucharest with my employers, Skidi Gonzalez. They took me there, and it was amazing. There were like, I think 9 or 10 of us that went. Again, we got another plane journey. We got taxis and airport transfers. We stayed in hotels. We did escape rooms. We went out for lovely meals. I was being towed along behind an electric scooter by my friends. They hired a wheelchair accessible bike for me so we could do a tour of the city. We had such an amazingly fun time. It was one of the best holidays I've ever had. It was very, very cool. A lot of bonding with my work colleagues, and it just made me feel very appreciated as an employee and very valued, by my employer. And that's why I really love working for them. The extra effort that they went to was really awesome. Not only that, I also went to Paris with Chris, and we had a wonderful time. It didn't come without its stresses, of course. The trip to Bucharest highlighted how easy it is when there's a whole itinerary planned. And the Paris trip was certainly more stressful, but it was still a great achievement. We drove all the way to the train station. We got the train to, in the center of Paris. We used public transport. We used Ubers. We saw the Louvre. We saw the Eiffel Tower. We saw the Arc de Triomphe. We saw all these beautiful monuments. We saw Cirque du Soleil. It was absolutely fantastic. We had a great time. Again, the highlight reel versus the reality was a little bit skewed. There was definitely some stressful times in Paris. It was not the most relaxing holiday I've ever been on, but it was an accomplishment, and I'm really glad that I went, and we're both really glad that we made those memories together. So that was really awesome. Another really wonderful memory of mine from this year is that my parents came over to visit, and I loved hosting them. They stayed upstairs in the apartment because it was vacant, so it was so lovely to see my mum and dad, and we played wonderful puzzle games with them. We engaged with them. We went to the park and we had a picnic. We went to the market. We had so many wonderful times. We went to the top of Moncherie, and we also had a picnic there where we could see out over the over the mountains and into Leger and the beautiful panoramic scenery at the top of the mountain. It was brilliant. I had a wonderful time, and I really value the time with my parents so much these days. And that was also a beautiful time to make some wonderful memories with some incredibly special people. Another thing that I'm really proud of this year is the podcast. I've had some wonderful conversations with some awesome people. Brittany from Empowered Para has been, really wonderful conversations. Brian from Paralyzed Living has been also one of my favorite conversations of the year. Other ones with close friends of mine that have visited. Who else? I've had some really great guests on the podcast. Of course, Benji, who I do the podcast with regularly, we've had some brilliant conversations that have been captured. And moving forward, I really want to do more conversations. So if anyone out there wants to be a guest on the podcast, I'm really open to having these wonderful conversations. They really nourish me a lot, and the fact that I share them and they resonate with other people means so much to me. It's just a beautiful feedback loop of having wonderful conversations, learning a lot about people, sharing different stories, and then having, again, that feedback loop of people saying, oh, I really like that bit or this bit, and seeing the beautiful comments appear. It's just awesome, and it's something I really feel like I'm good at, and I feel like it's something that I would love to continue in 2024. So there's some of my proudest accomplishments that I've had in my 5th year of being a paraplegic. And again, none of these things I thought were possible. Laying in the bed 5 years ago, thinking my life is over, and I could never have imagined achieving such success, really. On a more, I guess, grounded, sort of low-key things that I'm really proud of. Again, I've been keeping fit for the entire time I've been a paraplegic, really. But another year of keeping fit. I'm going to the gym twice a week. I'm swimming 2 or 3 times a week. I'm eating healthy. I'm doing intermittent fasting and staying in shape and staying a healthy weight, especially when you have limited mobility and we generally, as wheelchair users, live a more sedentary lifestyle. It takes a lot of extra effort to, stay in shape. And I'm really proud of myself for this because it's not it's not wildly common for this to happen. I'm certainly in better shape now than I was before my accident. I was definitely like a little bit chubbier. Another thing that I've done in the last 5 years is I've given up drinking alcohol and smoking tobacco. So I think today would mean that's 5 years, I guess, clean from tobacco and alcohol. And another thing with maintaining my physical fitness is it's really good for my mental health. For sure, I've definitely had some lowlights this year, some challenges, but they've been fairly shallow compared to the depths of mental health dips I've had over the last 5 years. They've certainly been the worst that they've ever been compared to the rest of my existence. Again, the chapter before my life, it had its ups and downs, but like after my accident, I went very, very deep into depression, suicidal thoughts, things that were unpleasant to talk about, but I've documented on this channel for sure. I've been very open and honest about it. But this year, yeah, I've had some struggles for sure, but they've been, again, a lot shallower than generally. Life's a roller coaster, right? It's not all, you can't always be happy all the time, but generally this year I've been overwhelmingly positive. I've been living life in the upper echelon of, human existence, and I'm extremely grateful for it. On the subject of gratitude, another thing I'm really proud of that I've accomplished is I've written in my gratitude journal most days, probably maybe 6 days out of 7. I've filled like 2 gratitude journals up. So it's really lovely to look back and realize that, I don't know, I kind of bang on about it a little bit, and I know it sounds a little bit cheesy and cringy, because I know that there's probably some people out there like, oh yeah, whatever, mate. But when I write in my gratitude journal every day, it reinforces an attitude of gratitude, which reinforces a worldview, which means whenever things happen, I always look for the gratitude. There's always some gratitude to be had, I've spoken about it a lot on the channel, and I think that's a really important thing, and it's something, again, I'm really proud of, a healthy habit that's I think really sort of gives way more than I used to give it credit for. In fact, I heard a really great quote the other day on a podcast, and it said 5 minutes of gratitude journaling every day is analogous to doubling your salary in terms of happiness. So if you can imagine how much happiness doubling your salary would be, you can get that from just 5 minutes of gratitude journaling a day, which is awesome, right? That was a statistic that was thrown out there. And I thought, wow, I think that's great. So that's why I feel so beautifully wealthy with all the things that come into my life, because I'm so grateful. And that's something, again, I never used to do before my accident. And I think it's definitely shaped my worldview. I think it's a point worth emphasizing. When I was first injured 5 years ago, there were so many things that I was so unsure of, so many things that I didn't know that I could do. And I'll give you an example. The other day, something that was been really stressing me out, and something that actually caused like a little bit of a mental health dip, was my car had broken. Like the heaters in my car had broken. I live in the French Alps where it snows and it's frosty, and without the heaters in my car, and there was also a leak in my car, there was a lot of condensation, and it was really stressing me out that I wasn't going to be able to fix it. Very long story short, I fixed it myself. Maybe it was luck, maybe it was skill, maybe it was Googling, maybe it was YouTube videos, I have no idea, but I managed to do it. And I was at the supermarket the other day, and I managed to put my bonnet up. I didn't realize I could get to the engine bay in my car, and I was up and I was tinkering in the engine, and basically all I did was disconnect the battery and reconnect the battery again. Have you tried turning it off and back on again, kind of thing. It sounds really simple, but the amount of satisfaction I got from fixing my own car, and the nods I got from people as well. They, I was in the supermarket car park, and they were like, "Oh, check out the wheelchair guy. He's bloody in the, he's in the engine bay, with an adjustable screwdriver. Go on, my son." And this old French guy was like, "Yeah." I mean, non-verbally, he was like, "Go on, my son." I was like, "Yeah, bruv." So that was really nice. And then after I'd fixed it, I was so stoked when I saw the heaters come on and realized what it meant that my car could warm up again. I was thrilled. I was like, "Yes, I fixed my bloody car." And there were people going, "Yeah, go on, mate." So it was really, really a wonderful moment. Again, all these things that I've achieved are things that I would never have thought possible in my early stages, And again, I've spoken about this in other videos, but laying in bed, and then the bed being your comfort zone, even transferring out of the bed into the wheelchair, bowel routine, all of these things that you have to learn floor transfers, crikey, like, and then all of a sudden you can drive, and then you live independently, you live on your own, you do your own shopping, you do your own groceries, you fix your own car, you have your own job, you're completely self-sustainable. All of these things, I had no idea that was possible. I genuinely thought my life was over, and now I live a bloody amazing existence. And I think my 5th year as a paraplegic has probably been one of the happiest years of my life. Really has been. I have to put it down to being in a beautiful relationship, having an attitude of gratitude, and I think just being pretty bloody lucky, to be honest. I think I can't really. Yeah, sometimes you just have to, acknowledge your blessings, right? I live a great life, and I don't want to brag. I don't want this to come across as like a braggadocious, like my life's so good. But I wanted to acknowledge it. If you are a newly injured wheelchair user and you're watching this, you could be like, and you're in your first year or your first month, I know it might seem a long time to be like, oh yeah, it's all right for you. You've been injured for 5 years. Well, you've got a lot of time ahead of you, if you are newly injured. And every year has got better. There's a lovely saying that, a lot of people overestimate what they can do in a year and overestimate what they can do in a month and underestimate what they can do in a year. And that's a real testament, I was always thinking like I wanted things to happen quicker and sooner. And looking back, the time in rehab was a really beautiful time. And though it was a struggle, of course, coming to terms with losing my abilities, losing my identity, regaining my identity as someone else, for a long time I didn't want to be the wheelchair guy, and then I changed my YouTube handle to Fredo the wheelchair guy, because I was like, I am the wheelchair guy and I'm going to bloody own it. And I like that identity now. It's weird, I think, how can I put it? The struggles that I've been through, as hard as they were, they've shaped me into the person I am today. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I wouldn't have not had my accident happen, because all of the lessons I've learned, I wouldn't give up the amount of personal growth I've been through to get to where I am today. Just to use my legs again, it would seem pointless. I feel like I was living with a certain amount of ignorance before, and I feel like I'm not enlightened, but I've certainly seen the light, and I've certainly live a certain different level of existence these days, and I feel like it's certainly superior to the way I lived before. And hopefully that's a beacon of hope for people out there who are newly injured. Anyway, I hope this video has been entertaining and helpful to anyone who's watched it, but I just wanted to share some of the really cool highlights of being a paraplegic for 5 years. I wouldn't change anything. If I could do anything different, I'll tell you what, here's a good one. If I could do anything different, for sure I would look at my phone less. I think having a more sedentary lifestyle, I do watch too much YouTube, I watch too many screens. Before I was snowboarding and mountain biking. I was out doing a lot of things. I definitely do things now, but I do less outdoor things. I spend a lot of time indoors. I've got the podcast, I've got the YouTube channel, I do artwork, I make the odd silly novelty rap song. And while I'm very content doing these things, and I have a beautiful girlfriend that I can hang out with and we have fun, I go to the gym and I go swimming, I do look at my phone a bit too much. So I think if I could, and especially when you're looking at your phone, you're hunched over, it's not really good for your posture, So yeah, if there's one thing I could have changed, I would have probably looked at my phone a lot less. I've recently deleted Instagram once again because it's ridiculously addictive, and I have a problem enough with YouTube, and that's long form content. Anyway, I think I've banged on long enough. These are the lessons I've learned, the things I've achieved, and I really hope they've hit home with a lot of you guys. Anyway, yeah, so that's my story. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being part of my journey. Stay positive, stay awesome, love yourselves and each other, and I guess I'll see you in the next video.